30th Street, apartment 218, across of Polk Avenue. Engine 14, medic 2677F.
Falcon 19, truck 4 reports to the scene from Lexington.
561 Davidson Street. Engine 51, 417, 6060. Cross of Dusty Street.
Fire and folder completely out.
U327 Alcohol Boulevard, two vehicles. Vehicle flipped over into a parked car.
Well, it's the medic 36, we're off the given location. We have one vehicle approximately 10 feet over the side, on its side, investigating.
We have 51 fire stations. Those include the squads. Stations have multiple units within each station, and we ran almost 15,000 calls in September. Of that, almost 4,000 hours were dedicated to responses. If you extrapolate that out on a 24-hour shift, there's a lot of units going without sleep.
Our schedule is completely different than any other schedule.
When I'm in the fire station, my heart rate, resting heart rate goes up just being in a fire station.
Being at work for the fire department, you are always in a heightened state of awareness.
The worst calls that the firefighters see are the ones that emotionally get you.
My name is Dr. Emily Manoogian. I'm a postdoctoral research associate at the Salk Institute, working with Dr. Sachin Panda. My research primarily focuses on circadian rhythms, and specifically with how external environmental cues, such as light and food, affect the internal clocks our bodies have inside of them. Their schedules are particularly difficult on their bodies, and that's not something we want to change. That's not something they can change. But what we want to do is find a way to optimize their health on that schedule.
An average day at the fire department, we're very regimented. We have a routine that we go through every day. It's the same every day. In general, we do shift changeover at 7:30. We have about an hour to check out the rig, making sure all of our equipment's on, everything's checked out, running efficiently. We've checked all the medical gear, checked the engine out. Generally, as soon as you're done with your morning check, you have like a crew meeting, and then at any point during the day, whether you're working out or cleaning the bathrooms or making dinner or even sleeping, we are called, could be the worst call of your career, you don't know. So that's us, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
The firefighters have an extremely stressful profession. They're waking up at all hours of the night to help fight fires and to protect us. And as a consequence of their lifestyle, 45% of on-job deaths of firefighters is attributed to cardiovascular disease.
So we know that firefighters are at a very high risk for many chronic diseases, and they include cardiovascular disease, for example, heart attack and strokes, diabetes, obesity, gut diseases, and also cancer.
Problems with firefighter health are so critical that it really got us thinking, is there a way that we could use what we've learned in circadian biology to design an experiment and see if we could improve firefighter health just by making small changes in lifestyle? Circadian is Latin for about a day, and we use the word circadian rhythms because we see these clear 24-hour rhythms in almost every level of physiology. So if you think about behavior, we have these clear sleep-wake cycles, even beautiful rhythms in cognition and learning abilities and mood. If you go to the physiological level, you'll see pretty much anything that you get tested at the doctor's office has that 24-hour pattern as well. And so these clocks, even at the cellular level, are controlling how everything else in your body is interacting.
One of the aspects that a lot of people know is that your brain needs sleep, about 8 to 10 hours, to reset and work better the next day. However, your organs do too. Your organs have your own internal clocks that they function, and it's not necessarily aligned with the time that you wake up or you go to sleep or your brain does. So they need their own sleep and wake cycle as well.
So it's a relatively very new field of research. The major discoveries in this field that relates to humans were made only in the last 10 to 20 years. So that's why many of the findings from this very important field have not even made it to textbooks or medical textbooks.
The circadian system is part of every part of your body. Every cell that has DNA has a clock. And so really being able to support those rhythms can have huge physiological benefits, across the whole body.
When I saw this, I thought it was a little strange, and I haven't heard much about it, but of course I've heard of other diets. There's plenty of diets out there.
I know a lot of you already do a lot of healthy lifestyle habits such as exercising and not smoking, but we really think that optimizing your circadian rhythm as best as we can will also reduce your risk over your lifetime of cardiovascular events.
The big discovery that we made is eating within 10 hours.
Dr. Panda has done some seminal studies showing that in animals, that when you restrict the amount of time that they eat, that they do better in terms of their cardiometabolic health.
We took 2 identical sets of mice. So we divided them into 2 different groups. One group got to eat whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. The second group also got the same number of calories, but the only difference was the second group got to eat all this food within 8 to 10 hours every single day. At the end of that 18 weeks, we had a huge surprise. The first group that got to eat whenever they wanted, they were obese, diabetic, they had heart disease, they had liver disease, and they were more prone to cancer. Whereas the second group were completely protected from obesity, diabetes, liver disease, cancer, etc. That was a huge surprise, because for the first time in the history of nutrition science, we discovered that when you eat is as important to us what or how much you eat. Then we went back and did the second experiment. We took the sick mice that are already at high risk for obesity, diabetes. They just had to eat the same food within 8 to 10 hours. And within 10 to 20 weeks, these mice also could reverse their disease, and many of them became free from obesity, diabetes. They significantly reduced their cancer risk, and their liver disease disappeared.
The mouse studies on time-restricted feeding were very exciting, but then the question was, when do people eat? Do they have a long eating window? Is this something that we need to address? Because nutritionists hadn't looked at that before. And the more we've talked to nutritionists and stuff, the phrase that keeps coming up is, if your eyes are open, your mouth is open, which people tend to say, yes, that's absolutely true. And so we realized this is something that we really need to start to look into. One of the reasons I joined the lab was because I was really excited about translating all the science that had been done in animals to be able to help humans. So my background is actually all in animal work. Up until a few years ago, I was working with hamsters, and then I flew cross country and switched from hamsters to humans because I wanted to take that knowledge we had of circadian rhythms and actually put it to work.
So the study is basically they wanted to limit your eating to a 10-hour window. So in a 24-hour period, you would only be eating during 10 hours of that. And they wanted to see the effects that it would have on our sleep rhythms, quality of sleep, as well as how digestion and all of that pertains to kind of cleaning out the body and resetting your system and seeing what type of effects it would have on firefighters.
The goal of this study is to just get an understanding of if time-restricted eating and really just kind of limiting the time in which you eat food and allowing for a proper rest can really lead to a lot of health benefits. And specifically, we're very excited about this in firefighters because their schedules are particularly difficult on their bodies. We're hoping that time-restricted feeding opens a new, non-invasive, completely free way to just be a healthier version of themselves. So this study is kind of my baby of my postdoctoral career. We had a few pilots. I learned the clinical field and how to run studies. this is my first big project that's mine, and this will kind of be what I'm known for this part of my career. But of course, it's always scary. What if we find none of it matters? And the scientist in me just says, that's okay. The findings are the findings. The data is the data. My job is to display that data accurately. And if it doesn't work, I don't want to tell people to try to waste energy doing it.
For the study, there were two groups. There was a control group and the group that I was placed in, which was the time-restricted eating.
Both are on healthy eating diets, olive oil, lots of fruits and vegetables. It's a Mediterranean diet. And the only difference is that the second group is also on a controlled eating window. So they have to eat within 10 to 11 hours each day, the same 10 to 11 hours.
In the morning, I eat starting at 9, and then I'm finished dinner by 7, and then I don't eat till the next morning.
Mine is between 9 a.m. and 7 is when I eat. Other than that, I drink water, black coffee, and that's it.
I mean, I haven't had any issues with it really, so I don't, it's been fairly easy to adopt like the restricted eating stuff. So, I mean, there really hasn't been anything hard about that. Just the social aspect is probably the only thing.
Initially, it was a little hard to do, not terribly hard, but it's just different. It's a change.
I think the biggest challenge is honestly waiting to eat. It's that to start that time restricted. So with me being 10:30, it can be quite a challenge if I wake up at 6:30. My children are usually up and at them, and they're getting breakfast at 8:30, 9, and kind of smelling their food, and that has been the biggest challenge for me.
Every device that we're putting on a participant gives us a unique piece of information. So the smartphone app is going to give us when people are eating, their opinion on when they're sleeping, and also how well they're sleeping, if what kind of exercise they're getting in. The continuous glucose monitors then allow us to see how their body is really responding to that lifestyle.
Potentially one of our primary endpoints is the CGM, to have their glucose levels come down. And we think that has to do with the circadian rhythm and how once you align it very well to your body's system, your body's metabolism starts to work better. So ideally we want your glucose levels to come down. And the way that we track it is we give this CGM, we put it on before and after. And we have seen some changes where it's come down, like people's glucose have been above 100 and they've come down to below 100, and the goal is to be below 100.
And then the actigrams allow us to really get an idea of when they're moving. They lay down to rest by 10:30, and by 11:30 they're up again on another hour-and-a-half call. They get, 2-3 hours of sleep? 1 till 2:30, they get 2.5 hours of sleep. They get woken up again for, another 2:30 in the morning till 3:30, another hour. And then they finally get to come back, and their long sleep for the night is 3:30 in the morning until 6:41 in the morning.
And then they're awake all day.
And then they're awake all day. And then combining all of that data to really get just kind of unprecedented view of someone's lifestyle and overall health. And so this is one of those things that we're really excited we'll be able to provide to participants at the end of the study, and they'll get to see that at every 3 months over this past year.
Okay there?
Yeah.
So far what we have seen is there are some individuals that are definitely trending in the right direction. There are definitely individuals that started out healthy and have stayed healthy, and in all groups we haven't seen any adverse effects yet, so that's what we're really excited about.
So I've been doing this for 3 months now. I'm pretty happy. I feel like I've lost quite a bit of weight. In that time, I've lost 24 pounds. I'm real happy about that. I feel a little bit better.
I've lost just about 30 pounds since starting this. I believe being on the study was one of those things that, pushed me over that strict rule to stay to. And, I believe in what the study is trying to see, and to be a good participant in it, I've been extremely strict with the time.
Personally, I would say my biggest benefits have been in sleep. I averaged probably around 4 to 5 hours of sleep on a good night. Now, instead of 4 to 5 hours, I am sleeping between, I would say, 7.5 to 8.5 hours of sleep. I do fall asleep significantly faster.
I was struggling with sleep and would wake up at 3 o'clock every single day. It didn't matter if I was in the station or at home. And I found myself sleeping the whole night through and actually waking up with the alarm clock, or just waking up naturally.
It seems like people are able to do the time-restricted eating. They're able to incorporate the Mediterranean diet, and no one's really having a problem with it.
Being on that time-restricted plan, I have generally felt better overall. I don't feel that bloated, like blown out type feeling when I go to bed, and then when I wake up in the morning, I feel fine.
And what is surprising is the amount of improvement what they're seeing is equivalent or sometimes even better than what people typically see by taking medications.
The goal is to be healthier, which is happening. So that sort of keeps you going. You're getting that positive reinforcement on the scale. You know, people are saying, hey, you lost weight. So that's positive reinforcement to keep that going. Once the study's over, I don't think I'll fall back into crappy eating because it's proven.
When the study is over, I think that yes, I would be able to continue on a pattern like this. And probably the only thing that would be different is I just don't have to take pictures of my food.
I'm enjoying it. I really am. I'm really curious to see what the data is that comes out of this. I'm not only as the study as a whole, but again, on a personal level, I want to see how I react to all this. I'm curious to see what I was at the beginning of the road versus what the conclusion of the study is going to show. For me, I think it's something that my family and I, we're going to adopt for ourselves. It works for me.
Time-restricted feeding sometimes seems too good to be true. I've been truly amazed at some of the results we've seen in individuals. That does make me kind of get re-excited about it over and over again. But I want to make sure this is real. If I'm going to tell someone to do it and say this is going to give you a health benefit, I want to know that that's true. If it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out and we got to go back to the drawing board. But I really think there's a good shot at it working.